And now for the table of knowledge. So, M.
M is for motivation.
Right. Now, we were going to talk about motor vehicles, but we just thought that was a little bit too boring, and I'm so sick of talking about motor vehicles. So if you were hoping that we'd say M for motor vehicles, I'm really sorry. We thought we'd talk about something a little bit more airy-fairy, but really important as well. So.
Yeah, that's right. So, and we have previously done episodes on motor vehicles and FBT as well. So if you are interested in that, go back and listen to our older episodes.
So we thought it might, there's a lot you can talk about motivation, and like there's people who do podcasts like for series and series on motivation. So we're not going to try and cover everything today. I think what we were wanting to talk about was probably more in a business sense, and how what kind of things we use to get motivated about doing our business work, or just doing work that we don't necessarily want to do either. So there's a lot of stuff there. But let's start with should we start with the definition of motivation?
We sure can, Jo. What is motivation?
So the definition of motivation is the drive to achieve your goals or needs. And from that, I think the two things that really stand out to me are goals and needs, and that they are different. So,
yes.
What you want and what you need are different. In my mind, goals tend to be more internally driven, and needs probably a little bit more externally driven. Like, I need to feed my family. I need to have a house, like a roof over my head. I need to keep my job.
Yes.
Right? And goals are different. Like, they're probably things that I really want to achieve. If I don't achieve them,
it's not life or
it's
death.
not, but they're things I want to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? How do you go about, like, before we get on to business stuff, what do you do from a goal perspective?
Well, for my goals, I am, and I know we're going to get into it a little bit later about whether you're a morning person, whether you're a night person, but I think it's setting aside that time when you work best as well. But my goals, I like to have not necessarily a bit of a vision board, but I go through and I have a think about my goals and what do I want to achieve for the year, and I write them down. And I know you're very similar as well, Jo. For my goals that are more internal, I like to physically see them written down. That kind of motivates me to work towards it throughout the year as well. And I have it in a central place where I can see it all the time.
Yeah. I think writing them down or even telling someone, but writing is really important. I feel like once you put a goal out into the world, then there's a level of accountability.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean you have to do it, but I feel like when you actually say something or write it down, you've got some sort of accountability. Things come in my head all the time. They go in, they go out, I forget about them. But if they're written down, I've got to go back to them.
Yeah.
So I have a diary that I've been using for a few years now. It's called the Full Focus Diary. It's from America. They're 3-month diaries. I just personally really like the program. I'm sure I don't use it to its full extent, but at the beginning of the diary, it does have like a whole lot of goal setting pages. And I do actually like to sit down every so often and go through those, rewrite them, because every 3 months I've got a new diary, right? So I have to go back and look at what I wrote about last time, have a think about them. Is that still relevant? Do I need to adjust that? What am I going to work on for the next 3 months, essentially?
That's exactly right. And it is nice to revisit those goals every 3 months as well, because it does keep you accountable. You don't write them down just once and then forget about them as well.
Definitely. But what we thought we would talk about today, before we go on to that, I also do want to say motivation is like something, no one's 100% motivated all the time. If you have got mental health issues, whether you're having, suffering from depression, anxiety, or any sort of issues like that, sometimes they're going to impact your motivation. We're not trying to solve those problems. If you do need to seek help from someone, please do. This is just a conversation about how to be motivated at work. So we do realise that there are things that may be preventing you from being as motivated as you want to be.
Yeah, exactly right.
But what we thought we'd talk about today are those things at work that maybe, like, let's face it, we all come to work. We have to do it because we've got to make money. Or maybe we don't have to, but we probably have.
Majority of us do.
That's the reason we're here. And sometimes we come into work and there's things we don't want to do and there's things we do want to do. And it's a natural tendency as a anyone, I think, really, to go to do the things that you like doing best. So if you've got a list of 10 things you've got to do today and you like doing 3 of them, you're going to do them first and then you're going to probably procrastinate on the rest of them and continue to do that. So I just want to give you a few tips on how we kind of what we do, how we do it. We've all got different ideas. No one's right or wrong. And maybe some of those tips will resonate for you.
Yeah, exactly right. So, and like you said, we all have tasks that we don't want to do. That's just life. But how do we tackle it in the best way to make our whole day productive? And I have previously mentioned on one of our podcast episodes the eat the frog theory. And this is something that I actually do. So, you know, essentially that one task that you've got for the day is what the frog is. So, and this theory is saying that you need to eat that frog first thing in the morning. Just get that task done and out of the way, and then your whole day is clear. So basically they're saying eat that frog before the frog eats you, because otherwise you just put that task off and off and off, and then it gets to 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you still haven't done it, and you think, oh, can I do it tomorrow? Do I get it done now? What do I do? If you just do that first thing in the morning, it's done and you don't have to think about it. And I am also a morning person. I work my best in the morning. So if there are tasks that require a little bit of brain power or more thinking than other tasks, I'll get them done first thing in the morning.
Let's just talk about that morning person type thing. So I know you do the eat the frog thing. That's great. The other one that we have used a few times is the 5 to 1, and we have talked about this on the podcast before, which is from Mel Robbins. Count backwards in your head, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just do it.
Which I do that as well.
And there is something apparently neurologically that makes you reset your brain a little bit when you count backwards. So, I don't want to do this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just do it.
Yeah.
And often it's something like you might not want to make that phone call or whatever, but
or reply to that email or whatever it might be.
But I've just got to do it.
Hit that reply button or hit that call button and just do it.
So that's a really good motivation for people who are good at procrastinating. So, all right, let's just talk about chronotypes, which I think is a really important thing to help you to achieve what you want to achieve, whatever that might be, whether it's your goal, whether it's work's goal or whatever. So can you explain what a chronotype is?
Yes. So essentially, and, you know, you always hear the thing of saying, oh, I'm a morning person or, oh, I'm a night owl. It is essentially, you know, and as we discussed yesterday, it's kind of genetic. But it is that what type of person are you? Do you work best in the morning? Do you work best in nighttime? We're all different, but it's finding out what works best for you.
Now, they often sort of have analogies of animals. There's a couple of different ones. So, and we'll talk about those in a sec. But I actually heard a podcast the other day from a scientist who was talking about the reason we do have these different chronotypes is actually genetics, from the fact that prehistoric times, someone in the tribe always had to be awake to make sure that everyone was okay. So there would be the people who were awake during the night. There were people who were awake during the day, and so there was sort of like that shift. And apparently that is why we do have these chronotypes. I mean, I don't know. I'm only saying something someone told me. I'm not quoting science as such, but it does kind of make sense. So, there's actually 4 chronotypes. I thought there was only 3, but there's 4 apparently.
Right.
So the typical morning one is either known as the lion or the lark. The person who, and I know we're both morning people, so I definitely function best in the morning.
Absolutely.
Come 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, I'm ready to go to bed.
Yeah, you're not getting anything out of me either.
and if I do have to work that time of night, it will be something very simple that I don't need to put too much effort into, essentially. The most normal one, or most common one, not normal, but common, is either known as the bear, or I think we call it the middle bird if you're going on the bird analogy. About 55% of the population are bears, and they follow the sun, essentially. So they wake up when the sun rises and they, perform best during the time that the sun is up. And then you've got the wolf or the owl, which is around 15% of the population, and they're the people who work best at night.
Yeah.
Don't understand that.
No, me either. And look, I'm definitely the morning person. You know, I'm up at 5:30 nearly every morning. I go to the gym. You know, that's my thing. I come back. I get my most important work done in the morning.
Yeah.
And look, I think about night owls and I think, how do they even do that?
Yeah.
How are they working at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night? But I bet they look at us morning people and think we're crazy too.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. The other one, though, is known as the dolphin. And another sciencey fact I heard, which I don't know if you knew that, but dolphins actually never go to sleep completely.
Oh, I did not know
that.
that.
So they can put half of their brain to sleep, but with the other half of their brain, they're alert. And the reason that is the case is because they would drown otherwise, because they have to be able to surface to breathe. And if they were just fully asleep, they wouldn't do that. So this is the chronotype known as the dolphin, which is essentially people who are probably known as insomniacs. They can't ever really completely close off and rest. So that's another chronotype. But obviously that might have some other issues. It's maybe not genetic as such. It's more just that they've got reasons they can't sleep. So when it comes to motivation, I think, again, structuring your day, like we're very big about planning. Every morning I plan my day. I write down what I need to achieve, structuring those tasks that I know they're going to require more of my effort for the part of the day that I like best, which is the morning. That's probably a big tip there. And have you thought about that? And
exactly.
Is that part of the reason why you're having so much trouble getting your work done, because it's just not the right time of day for you?
Yeah, and I think it's also important to plan, and rather than starting your day and opening up your emails and, you know, there's 200 emails and you're feeling overwhelmed and you just don't even know where to start, if you just have a bit of a plan in place, clear the emails out, make a plan for the remaining ones and just, you know, get started on tackling those, that can help as well.
So one of the things that might help with that is calendar blocking, and most of us tend to use calendars these days, but actually setting aside some time for those things that you need a bit of extra help, motivation doing, and actually making that sacred time. I think that's the important thing. Like, we can all put some calendar blocks in, and I know I spent last week, I've colour-coded my calendar, it all looks beautiful. And on Thursdays, I'm meant to have creative time for 2 hours, which is meant to be my time where I can sit and write and do creative work. And I managed to get half an hour out of it because I didn't value it, and probably no one else did either. And I think it's making sure that people understand that just because it's a block in your calendar, that's just as important as having an actual appointment in there.
Yeah.
And often we go, oh, well, we'll just put a meeting over the top of that. She's free.
Yeah, that's right.
So probably communicating that time is there for a reason, and you have to communicate that. The only person who can do that is you.
Yeah.
And really valuing that time and actually sticking to what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and make it a priority. If you put that block in, hold yourself accountable to actually spend the time doing what you're supposed to be doing in that block, whether that's writing or replying to a certain email or whatever the task might be.
Yeah, exactly. Another tip I really like is habit stacking, and this is one I think is really good for people. Let's face it, if you're a business owner, probably the most boring task for you is doing your accounting. And so if you're trying to reconcile your Xero or your MYB, actually stacking that with another habit. So what I usually tell people is when you get up in the morning and you make a cup of tea, turn on your computer and reconcile your accounts while you're having your first cup of tea or coffee for the morning.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that. Of course, there might be something else. Some people try and stack it with, like, when you watch the news at night, maybe while you're watching the news you can take photos of any receipts that you did for the day and upload them to the program that you're using to upload your receipts to. So it's trying to stack a habit that is something that you don't really want to do with something that you are doing already, and it reminds you to do it.
Exactly right. And it's also, you can also balance that with, if there's a task that you don't want to do, you can balance that with something that you do like doing. So for example, if you need to write something creative, but you're not a creative person and you don't like writing, why don't you go to one of your favourite cafes? You're happy at that cafe and get that task done, trying to balance it out with something that you do like doing when that task you don't actually enjoy doing.
Yeah, or it might even be that the location or something about it triggers that response in you. So for me personally, writing is one thing I love doing, but I find it really hard I find it hard to get started. Although all of a sudden I'll go, yeah, I want to write, right? It just comes to me. But if I'm trying to schedule it into a time, I have to feel like I've got to get into the mood. So it might be that I want to go to a coffee shop, but it also might be what I'm wearing. I might want to wear something a little bit sort of creative versus, I'm not going to wear a suit while I'm writing.
Yeah.
And for the gym, same thing. If you're someone who gets up in the morning and goes, oh God, I just prefer to sleep in. Get up, put your clothes on.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And they say the hardest thing of getting out of bed and going to the gym in the morning is just putting your feet on the floor. Once you actually get out of bed and put your feet on the floor, you should be right. But it's also a bit of a psychology thing. Like, I admit there's mornings I don't want to go to the gym, don't get me wrong. But if you think in your head, if I go to the gym, I'm going to feel so much better afterwards. I'm going to have all of these endorphins. My exercise is going to be out of the way and I can get started on my day. And I know that days that I go to the gym, I feel a lot more productive than days than I don't go to the gym.
I think it's that important part of looking beyond the task, beyond the actual thing to the task to the result.
Exactly.
So what is it that I can do now, and what will I feel like after? And is that need better than sitting in bed?
Exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah. Any other things that any other ideas?
No, I don't think so. I know that motivation is a hard thing, and we're not saying that people need to be motivated every single day because that's totally unrealistic. But I think there's a lot of small changes that people can make in their everyday life to help with this.
Yeah. You're never going to be 100% perfect. It's like dieting. Like, everyone cheats.
Of course.
Okay. So rather than stopping and going, I'm not going to diet again because I just cheated once, just go back and try again. Like, if you don't make it to the gym tomorrow morning, that's okay.
Go the next day.
Go the next day. Yeah. And I think from a motivation point of view for work, I really truly believe that there are three external factors that help us be more motivated at work. Have got nothing to do with work, and that's what you eat, what you do for exercise, and sleep. And if you've got all those three things down pat, the rest of your life tends to be a little bit more motivated because you're feeling healthy, and that all flows through. It's all related.
Yeah, I 110% agree with that. What you eat and your sleep and your exercise are so important in your everyday life. And of course, we all have days where we eat takeout or we have a crappy sleep. That's okay, but I know myself after that, I feel terrible. I don't feel good. And it's important to recognise that and go, hey, I actually need to value my sleep. I'm going to bed at a reasonable time, or eating healthy food as well.
And look, it doesn't have to be a whole life overhaul. So that's the thing. If you try and do something like massive in one hit, it's not going to work.
No.
But like one little baby step, what's one thing you can do today that might help you be a little bit more motivated in work, in life, in whatever?
That's right.
One little step.
That's right. So we challenge everyone to make one little step, whether it be doing your bank reconciliations in the morning with your coffee or tea, or going to bed an hour early, whatever it might be.
So I'm going to put forward a challenge for myself, and I'm going to, because I like to be accountable. So we've got a whole, and this is another thing, like, is there a different way to do things? So one of the things I have a lot of difficulty doing with is keeping notes, right? So when I have clients, I'm probably the opposite to most accountants who sit there and scroll notes down all the time. I'm not really good at it. I like to listen to my clients. I like to hear what they have to say, and I find that taking notes really distracts me from that. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't be taking notes. So one of the things that I've started to try and do is do a voice recording after I've had the meeting, because it's much quicker. And then I can just get all those things out in one hit. So that's what I'm going to really try and do, and I'm going to habit stack it, that as soon as I've finished a meeting, within the next half an hour I need to do that voice recording and have it uploaded onto our shared drive, so that anyone in my team can listen to that voice recording. So that's going to be a new habit for me, and I want to be motivated to do that. So I'm going to hold myself accountable.
Perfect. And I'll be able to hold you accountable as well, Jo.
You will.
I'll be able to say, have you done the voice recording for this client meeting?
So is there anything you want to challenge yourself with?
Oh, what am I going to challenge myself with? I'm going to try and work on my emails. So quite often my emails can get a little bit chaotic, because I'm sure everybody's can. So this might be a good thing for everybody as well, but I'm going to try and start using the folder structure in my emails, which I don't usually do. Quite often I just leave, everything I need to action as unread and just kind of work my way through it. But I want to try and start working on the folder structure, putting things in folders and prioritising them. So that's going to be my challenge, is just trying to rejig my emails.
Okay, well, hopefully we've provided a little bit of motivation to you today. We're not experts at this. We're just trying to give you some ideas of what we could do. Maybe you can put down a challenge yourself. If you've got a diary, write it in there. If after you listen to this program, write it in there and then come back to it in a month. We'll come back to it, well, maybe in a month. Yeah. And we'll find out how we're going with our challenge. So.
That's right. And everybody's different. So these things, the things we've mentioned may not work for you, or they very well may work for you. Everybody's different.
Yeah. Well, have a good week, everyone.